Guys, I'm happy to be joined on the podcast by former Congressman Steve King. Steve King was for 18 years the congressman from the 4th District of Iowa. And he's the author of a new book called Walking Through the Fire, My Fight for the Heart and Soul of America. Steve, welcome to the podcast. I've actually found the book. I can't say I enjoyed reading it because it's really it's a difficult book about a kind of constellation of factors, almost a ganging up, if you will, on you for speaking up on a whole series of issues. I kind of want to get into it, but let me start with a little bit of your background. It seems like you started a construction company, you made it successful, you then ran for local office, the Iowa State Senate, and then you vaulted your way into the U.S. Congress. You were a congressman from 2003 to 2021. So the point I want to make here is, and you make this point in the book, is that you are kind of a known quantity. Your colleagues knew you as somebody who would stand up and speak your mind and fight for issues. And then you became kind of a Trumpster. And you talk a little bit about your convictions and also why you think it's important to be able to speak up.
Well, yes, and I could see what they were doing to manipulate the language for a number of years. For example, people got called racist 5 and 10 years ago, and everybody didn't get called racist. Today, everybody is a racist. And I saw them bring down the language the Sunday after Trump was elected president, and Soros and company were at the Mandarin Occidental Hotel in Washington, D.C., and out of there, they planned what they were going to do to resist the Trump presidency. One of them was to implement new language to attack with. And there they launched white supremacist, white nationalist, Nazi as a language that they would use to attack anybody that didn't agree with them. And so, for example, the term white nationalist had been used virtually not at all from we did a LexisNexis back to the year 2000. But after that meeting in that hotel, it got used 10,000 times. This is the LexisNexis number. And between the middle of November and the end of that year and the following year, it went on up to 30,000 times, from virtually nothing to 30,000. That's how they weaponized the language. It's one of the things that I had seen coming for a long time.
Well, I mean, let's pause for a moment to savor the irony here. You've got Soros, who, when he was a teenager, was in the company of another guy confiscating, Jewish treasures and Jewish art, doing, in a sense, work for the Nazis. And this is a known fact. Soros himself has talked about it. You also have the phenomenon, and you mentioned this in the book, you say that the Democrats were the party of slavery. They were the party of the Ku Klux Klan. Of course, I've shown this theme in my movies. So, isn't it it's a remarkable chutzpah? How does a party that is essentially committed all these crimes, and you may say patented the word racism, how does it successfully pin the racist tail on the Republican donkey? How does that occur?
It's interesting you use the word chutzpah as well, Dinesh, and I think that's apropos for what we're talking about here. I was attacked because I had targeted Soros, and I had been critical of Soros. So they turned that all around on me and make me an anti-Semite into this bargain, because Soros has now cloaked himself with the shield of being Jewish, which, according to the Jews I talked to, say he's not. So how do they turn this language is a real question. And what we see often is people from the left, well, their standard practice is to accuse the people on the other side of the aisle of doing what they are doing. And so that's what they do, and they just flood the zone. And we are just innocent and honest, and we accept things the way they are. And then we've got this squishy, moderate rhino, globalist, elitist Republicans that they just think that you can appease the left. And so I guess I'll say the ranks at the top of the hierarchy of the Republican Party, almost all of whom turn on me. They are the Neville Chamberlains of our ideology. And they're thinking appeasing the other side is somehow going to get them to quit. And I've always said, never back up, because if you do, then they'll push you again and again. They'll ratchet you against the wall, and you'll have no place to plant your back foot in order to fight.
I mean, you note in the book, and I think this is quite true, that the left protects its own. I mean, I remember Ilhan Omar had made some comment that was dubbed anti-Semitic. She talked about the Benjamins, referring to the $100 bills and the Jews and the Benjamins. And of course, she had to issue a perfunctory apology. But at no point did the left think we're going to throw her off the bus. And in fact, she's kind of an influential member of the squad to this day. Now, let's follow the anatomy of the hit against you, because it looks like it always starts with the media. They do a profile, they take something that you said. So let's start with what happened to you. It seems like you had a guy from the New York Times, Trip Gabriel, who did this sort of article on you that portrayed you as a white supremacist. Talk for a moment about that.
Well, yes, and we all know the New York Times and what reputation they have earned as far as their lack of honesty. And my communications fella, John Kennedy, excellent individual. And they had been trying to open up this interview with the New York Times throughout the month earlier before I did the interview. And then I had texts come in sometime in, I'll say, early January from Trip Gabriel. The press got a hold of my cell number and passed it around. That happened. And so he texted me, and I texted him, and he wanted to do an interview. He said that his chief editor had directed him to do an article about how I had been the one who had laid out the immigration agenda, that Trump had adopted it, and how was it that I, this congressman from Iowa, was able to get my immigration agenda being utilized by the president of the United States. Well, that's kind of flattering if that's what the story was about. I knew, though, that they were going to use it to attack Trump. And I also, though, I texted him back, and that's a matter of record. And I said, I may be open in the morning about 8:30, but run this through John Kennedy. And so that morning I got up and I went into the shower. And when I came out, the phone rang at exactly 8:30. It was Trip Gabriel. And I had an email that I did not get a chance to see from John Kennedy, my communications fella, that said, don't stay away from Trip Gabriel. They're trying to trap you. It's a trap. Well, so in that little flux of time, I did a 56-minute untaped interview, standing there in a towel. And he had no notes either. And so, but Kevin McCarthy insists that Trip Gabriel wouldn't make a mistake. He could type as fast as I talk and punctuate with perfection, which is, of course, what is he? You have to be, nobody can do that. It's impossible. Even the stenographers down on the floor of the House, where I have, at a time, more words in the congressional record than anybody else, they will say that they can't type as fast as I talk with their magic keyboards, Dinesh. So we know that that's a lie.
Let's take a pause, Steve. When we come back, I want to follow this story and follow the response to it on the part of the Republican leadership. We'll be right back.